This is hard to do. How to draw an eye. The first thing you want to do is when you're drawing an eye, you want to make a trapezoid. And a trapezoid, two lines that are parallel to each other. In general, the tear duct is always lower than the outer corner of the eye. So the tear duct is lower. As you're drawing your eye, you have to remember that there are many planes to an eye. But the first thing to remember is the eye, the iris, which is a circle. The lid generally covers about a third to a quarter of the eyeball and iris. So here is kind of an outline and contour of that. If you don't do that, you will look worried or scared when the eyelid is not covered. And that is a no-no. Unless you want to have a scared or worried look. But if not, in general, you want to cover the eyeball. I will now draw an eyeball. Just some few facts. Tear duct, outer corner, iris, cornea, pupil, sclera, and here are some images that I've drawn in the past of eyeballs. Some are good, some are okay. I always practice. I've been drawing a long time, so now I will draw an eyeball for you. I'll see you in a bit. Don't move. So I'm going to draw an eye for you right now. And I think one of the things that's important when you're drawing eyes is to get the trapezoid action going that we talked about. And, you know, again, depending on the person you're drawing, the gender you're drawing, the age, will determine what kind of eye you're drawing. Again, the tear duct is always lower than the outer edge. I'm using Faber-Castell, and they're B all the way to H. And H is hardness. So if you have a 5H, that's extremely hard, versus a B, which is extremely soft. And I'm working in the middle, which is an HB. And it's a very similar to a Ticonderoga, but it's a graphite made for drawing. And when you're drawing the lid, you have to remember you're taking the shape of the eyeball. And depending on the shape of the eye, the person, the age, will dictate what you'll have there in terms of size-wise. I'm going to use a template because I feel as if when one is drawing, and after you learn how to kind of do everything that needs to be done, you can use things that will come to your aid while drawing. And for me, I think a template takes a little bit of the guesswork out of everything. So if the light is coming from here, you want to think about shadow and how light creates a form. And for me, I think one of the things that I'd like to pass on is the iris, the color part, goes all the way around. But you kind of see it, if this was a clock, this would be at 10, this would be at 2, generally. So because the eyelid has a thickness to it, it will cast a shadow. Now I'm going to pick up an H. This is a 3H. So it's a lot lighter in value when you press down. And I find that if I put down a softer lead first, that I'm able to come back with an H or a 3H, and I'm able to blend a little bit. If you have a highlight, so if this is the highlight in your eye, you want to keep the opposite side of where the highlight is, because it's going through the iris to be light. So I would shade this and then shade the iris and the eyelid, the eyeball, excuse me, all the way across. But I keep that area light. The actual, I found out that the actual lines in a light color eye that you notice, I mean it's in all eye, are actually muscle fibers. So kind of like the muscles you see in your arm, the fibrous, sinuous things that you have in larger muscles are in your eye as well. That was a pretty exciting thing to learn. I'm going to go a little darker, and I'm going to use a 2B for the pupil. Now I'm pressing at about the same pressure as I am with the H, but if you notice, it makes a lot darker value. And when you're drawing in graphite and you want to have a value that speaks to things that are dark in value, shadows, colors that come across as dark, so I'm able to get a darker value here, and in here I sometimes outline the iris part. You also want to remember the wider the pupil, when you dilate a pupil when you're drawing, it looks like a person is much more caring and open because the pupil is dilated. It gives a more, I don't know, sense of humanity and of, I guess, vulnerability. And when you look at a dog's eye, I'm making this pretty big, and it gives a sense of compassion versus a pinpoint eye with a circle. Remember when I talked before that you always want to shade the bottom of the eyelid there, the corners as well, because it is a sphere, and when something round goes away from you, you want to be able to keep it in a gray value. So I am going to stop the video now because I have to figure out, I just got a new camera. I'm trying to figure out how to work it. So it's a smartphone, and I think it's smarter than me, to be quite frank, but that's another story and another conversation. I just wanted to give you an idea of how to start an eye. Remember, it's a trapezoid. This side, the tear duct, is always lower than this side. The iris that is here, the eyelid cuts over a good third of it. The pupil, depending on how large or how small you make the pupil, will determine how someone looks, the emotion of a human being. Okay, thanks for watching. I'll be back. If you like what you saw, please subscribe. Thank you. Talk to you soon.